The Canadian Group for Democracy in Ukraine, in its letter, asked for 3 items, and I think we can talk to those, but we can also elaborate. We asked for officer training, we asked for soldier training, and we asked that Canada, and military equipment, we asked more than that. We said, Canada, please take a lead in NATO. Establish a task force that will deal not only with those 3 issues, but more importantly, to find a way for Ukraine to join NATO, because that is the most important thing. And our basis for that is that if Russia doesn't want it, it means it's good for Ukraine, it's good for the West. And Russia certainly doesn't want another enlargement of NATO. Russia doesn't want NATO to station its troops on the border between Ukraine and the NATO countries, nor does it want Ukraine to be armed. So that's the basic thing. Putin doesn't like it, it means it's good for us. If Putin likes something, it means it's bad for the West. So to underscore, what we're asking the Canadian government to do is to take a lead in NATO, establish a task force, a big new initiative to lead like-minded people in NATO to find a way, to find a way via NATO to get into that organization for Ukraine. It's a big challenge, but somebody has to do the job. And Canada is well positioned to do that. I might also add that there is a big discussion whether Canada should be sending a battalion. And this happened after the fact, so we didn't focus on that. But we certainly endorse Canada going with a battalion. It's important. This is where the action is happening in the world. This is where the countries are working together. This is where democracies are uniting against an autocrat. And Canada needs to be there. And I think, given the CF-18 experience in Iraq, this would cement good relationships between Canada and NATO. And, one of the reasons that Ukraine has had and will continue to have difficulty in ascending NATO is corruption. And when we asked Prime Minister Trudeau to establish a task force in NATO led by Canada, definitely corruption will be one of them. They have to deal with that. I mean, we're just a week away from NATO happening, and then Mr. Trudeau is going to Ukraine. I suspect he's not going there empty-handed. I think he will need to come out of NATO with something to offer to Ukraine. If he doesn't, and I know Russia is working very, very hard that none of this happened, and there was a strong article and by a man who generally agrees or tends to or sounds like or writes like he agrees with Mr. Putin in the Post media yesterday, in the National Post. So Mr. Putin is going to work very hard and is working very hard for this not to happen. And he is chiding Canada. He is chiding Canada for wanting to put a battalion in, and he will be critical. But as I said, the bottom line is if Putin doesn't like it, if Russia doesn't like it, it means it's good for Ukraine, for Canada, and for the West. So we should listen to Putin because the clues are always there. He absolutely loves some things and said, it's the best thing, let's do that. But he detests some other things, and he detests when we are strong. And NATO is a powerful, powerful organization. And given Brexit, it is a very, very important organization, and we need to be there. Canada needs to be there. This is about working with friends, working with like-minded countries to do the right thing. And the right thing is to avert Russia from being the kind of nasty a neighbor that it has been in other parts of Europe, and to protect Ukraine, who is the bulwark for Europe and global peace and security against Russia. We're in a very, very difficult situation globally because of Russia. And it's not just doing damage in Ukraine. It's in Iran. It's in Syria. It's with China. It's with Africa. Terrible. So it is a dangerous player on the global scene. And whatever NATO with Canada and others can do to undermine that danger is good for me and for my grandchildren. Canada has the capacity to help. It is highly regarded. So please, Mr. Trudeau, do it. Let your boys in defense, let your boys in CSIS, let your women in the security apparatus determine what is right. Please include in the task force that we are urging you very strongly to do more training for officers, more training for soldiers, more weaponry, and above all, find a way for Ukraine to become a member of NATO.